Hello, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. So today I titled this message, When Prophecies and Fears Rise in the Fall. When Prophecies and Fears Rise in the Fall. For some of you all, you may have tuned in to a number of speakers who like to chatter about what is to come. A lot of speakers who don't give you too much information, but they just say that something is about to happen. And over the years, we've been specific about the something, and we've used various articles, blogs, and we've talked to different individuals offline and then personally with all of my contractual work that I've done over the years. I was able to get into some circles and be able to come back to the channel and warn some people about some things and be very specific, especially during the time when there was the rollout of the dreaded C jab, and some individuals were like, I'm still going to do and whatever else. Well, it was a hit or miss, and some of these individuals are no longer with us. But hey, there's only so much that you can tell people. And now here we go again with some folks talking about what they're going to do. And then next thing you know, some folks are being buried. So the numbers are increasing within the family. I am getting word back that just in 1 week at the time of this recording, there has been 5 extended relatives who have passed away. Now, at some point, you can't say, oh, it's, witchcraft in the family, and, oh, there's, just people not taking care of themselves, and well, what did they have before, well, maybe that has something to do with it. You're not going to pull that one on me, so we can stop all that. At some point you ask questions and then you connect dots, and the next thing you know, okay, it's time to reach out to an attorney. I mean, hey, that just seems like the smart thing to do. Get some investigators involved, exhume some bodies. But hey, if people want to just receive whatever they want to receive, that's on them. And in some cases, or I should say in many cases, people aren't receiving too much of anything, and that's the way corporate wants you to be. Don't explore, don't research, don't do too much of anything. Just accept whatever we tell you. But I don't play those games. Now, there is this repeatable seasonal pattern that happens every single year. As far back as the early 90s and latter, there were some conversations. This is my personal experience. It's probably even much later for some of you all, being that you're older than me, where there's this end times talk, right? The Christian prophesies about all sorts of things. A lot of it stemming around, we got to get ourselves together. You never know the day or the hour, right? And some of you all, I've told you this sort of thing, and we don't know the day or the hour. But when people start talking about national and international, you've got to be clear on what exactly you're talking about. And it does help to have references rather than just speaking off the top of your head, right? So I'm seeing more and more of the younger crowd doing this sort of thing. And I'm the kind of person that, being that I have a background in journalism and mass communications, old school style, that means that, we're going to keep asking you a bunch of questions until it frustrates you, until you're exposed, until, okay, we see that there is a liar in the camp. And it's not about what makes you feel good. It's not about being paid to say certain things. That's why I don't want to get mixed up into any type of advertising if I can help myself, especially the kind of advertising that is in video, because if that relationship with that partner is no longer, you got to go through all of those videos where you recommended that product or that service, and wipe it all out. And at some point, somebody, if you got 100 plus videos or whatever, you don't want to chop up all those videos. So let's use the infamous jabs, if you will, as an example. Back in 2020, we know that there was, whoa, wait a minute, the dreaded sea, right? And then from there, let's do something about the dreaded sea. Let's make sure that we get this rollout out, says government officials. And so that's what happened. Fast forward, the same person, same leader, okay, the Trump administration, back then, now here we are. And for some of you all, he was a voice back then and he's a voice now. And some of you all don't trust that voice. You don't believe that voice. And the last thing you want to do is put something else in your body if you've already done it. Some didn't even do it to begin with. Okay. Now, when anyone, whether it's a family member, a friend, or even a government leader, when they want you to do something, what do you think they're going to come up with to get you to do something, whatever that might be? They're going to create the fear, the worry, the stress. They're going to tell you that this is what you ought to do because, and then give you a bunch of reasons, okay? We have some individuals that are in Christian groups that are being used, whether they know it or not, to spout off the same old that, once again, we were here long before some of these young people have been, and some folks who you have been here for quite some time, and I don't know why you don't go back in your journals and notice that between mid-September through late October, you start with this business of Halloween, and I gotta be prayed up, and Satan is busy and all that. And we know this already. We know it. It's nothing new under the sun. Okay? But it gets messy when you're mixing in all of the other stuff as well. Oh, civil order, martial law, the gun control. Oh, it's fear, it's panic, it's something right around the corner. Now, I don't know about you, but this God that I serve, he has a way of showing us better than he can tell us, using what men already do. Nothing new under the sun. Things that men and women already do. Late September, there's the prophecy buzz, okay? Some folks start even earlier than that because I need to get so many people to look at whatever I put out here. Okay, so be it. So let's use the Feast of Trumpets and Rosh Hashanah and September 23rd, okay? Now, right around this time, this is where there are individuals, or leading up to this time, where they start talking about the rapture, they start talking about tribulation. I used to work for a company where I would listen to all the Christian radio stations back to back to back that had, or Christian programming that were from some of these mainstream radio broadcasters. And it was like they all started sounding the same. And I was like, wait a minute, that was year number 1, then year number 2, then year number 3. And I'm saying, and this was in the 90s, mid 90s. And I'm saying, they're all talking about the rapture. They're all talking about the tribulation. Before long, it was like I could repeat, everything related to what these radio broadcasters were saying. Okay? When there's a blood moon, here we go. Here comes the hype. We saw that in 2014 and 2015. Okay? Getting us ready for something. Then as soon as something negative happens in the mainstream media, it's like, see, I told you about the blood moon, because somebody wants kudos or credit because this one was right. How about if you sit back long enough, you just start to see the patterns, and then you give credit where credit is due. Some people will say, well, it's nothing but God. Is it really nothing but God? God will show you, once again, repeat performance. Repeat performance. September 23rd, 2017, Revelation 12. There's the sign. Sign of what? 2023 through 2025, Revelation 12. Okay, so somebody goes, well, what's up with Revelation 12? Okay, so we're going to go there. In Revelation 12, and this is where a lot of the September prophecy talk, there is some scriptures that people will pull out, and then what they will do is they will use the biblical scriptures to tie in to modern day times in a way, though, that creates fear-mongering. Not getting you set free, not really leading you toward Christ, but leading you back to the prophet or the prophetess. Oh, stay with me. And this is why when people recommend various speakers to me with regard to end time prophecy, revelation, and all of that, I'm like, do I really want to listen to this again? And then when I listen to a little bit of it, I go, oh yeah, this is 1990s. This is last year, September, the year before September, October. And then every now and again throughout that year, there is someone or a group, because they want an uptick in numbers, whether at the church or elsewhere, that they'll pull out something like end time prophecy. So you got to know how the plan is with some of these mainstream media folk, as well as those that think you don't know better. So Revelation 12, the King James Version. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. This is the go-tos, okay? Right around this time of year, it's the fall, and here they go. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads, and his tail drew, and on and on and on. Now, I don't want to get someone so caught up in this that they start getting, nervous and all of that, because that's not what this message is about. Okay. And God didn't call me to preach on this message, because you got enough people out there that'll break it down and all this other stuff. And what it does is it gets you back into that frame of mind of, oh my goodness, end times. I got to watch the sky. I got to watch the moon. I got to, no, instead of worrying about all of that, instead make sure that if there is something that does take place sooner rather than later, that you got your insurance policy taken care of. You already split up all of your assets, which people don't talk about that, right? Oh, if you really feel like something is going to happen right around the corner, how come you haven't split up your assets? How come you haven't taken your jewelry and your clothes and gave it to, people who want those things? How come you didn't take your retirement monies, as well as your IRA funds and everything else, and divvy it up between people? Right? See, this is how you can test some individuals. God wants us to test the spirits. I'm going to watch how you move. I don't see you selling your car. I don't see you moving to another location, right? I don't see you doing too much of anything, but yet you want me to get all hyped up about end times and about something right around the corner. A lot of times, too, there are those individuals that are dealing with their share of mental health issues. Let's just be honest. We don't push that aside. I'm not the kind of believer that we're just going to ignore and just give it all over to the Lord. No. There are people with mental health woes that are very troubling, and they get people to ride on this. I want some people to get free out of a lot of these emotionally triggering messages that are out here, right? Very jarring, some of them, to the point where you're anxious and now you need to go see a doctor because the heart palpitations are too much. Come on. I've been there. I've done it. I've seen the movie. It's not fun. It's not cool, right? And if somebody wants your land, I'm going there. Somebody wants your land. Somebody wants your house. And you 50, 60, 70, 80 plus years old. Somebody is tired of you being on Social Security. It doesn't take much to or, get you all riled up. And the next thing you know, oh Lord, is that stroke signs? Is that, get you out your house and have you take something that you shouldn't be taking. You already got a bunch of health issues. Send you to your grave a little sooner rather than later. I'm talking to someone. But, you want to stick with Revelation 12 and you want to say that, well, it's nothing but the Lord and all this other stuff. But I'm going to put you in on some other little shady stuff that goes on around this time of year. And remember, who owns the media? Who owns radio? Who owns television? Come on. Who owns even this platform that I'm speaking on? Okay? And so there's certain news that's pushed forward during certain times of the year, such as this that we're speaking of, September and October. And we also know too that some folks end up going to their graves prematurely by the time the next major holiday events show up. Okay? For some people, it's close to home. So there's constant debunking of dates where people start claiming this is going to happen and that's going to happen. Okay. Individuals spoke about to me, to my face, into September, watch out. There's going to be all sorts of things that happen all throughout the month, all October too. But it doesn't mean that the sky's going to break open. Well, you never know the day or the hour. We never know the day or the hour. But how about this? How about you consider your time on this planet? And I shared Psalm 90. My grandmother knew her time. She was the one who told me to read Psalm 90 to her. You see? And that was in in 2015. And then before that, in 2013, she wanted me to read it. You see? So sometimes it's not, and I'm coming where somebody is. Sometimes it's not about end times. Okay, even though, yes, that's good to know. And our God wants us to know things. But sometimes the end times is for the person who's telling you about the end times. You see, they feel that something in their spirit is coming to an end. Sometimes it is anxiety. It's nothing more than anxiety. Somebody needs some medicine for that. Somebody needs some therapy for that. But other times, though, when you already know that this person's going downhill fast, in and out the hospital, sickly. Lord Jesus. Another reinforcing calendar driver, because that's what it is. We look at the calendar. Let's push this. Let's push that. Right? Says the one who is responsible for media programming. Right? The annual UN General Assembly is an example. High-level week every September. There are those who are prophecy interpreters. What they do is they connect UN diplomacy, right? Peace and safety, or some type of covenant language. And what they do with it is they get individuals who are, there we say, in the know or close to certain people, or what's the next move, or what are we planning for this and that and the other, right? There's this watchfulness that goes on throughout the month. Okay? So, except it's not just in September. This goes on through September to December. Okay? And it's based on these sessions that the United Nations has. And then they resume in January. And then they talk about all the issues, all the things that are on the agenda. Okay? Now, when people see meetings, when people hear things, I don't like that. That sounds troubling. What's up? Some of that, yes, it is concerning. It's concerning, but we're not going to get all in our feelings and freak out, right? We're not going to do that. But notice, I'm giving you the information where you can go and look this up. I'm not coming from a place of the prophetess, right? I'm not doing that, because some of these people who say that they're prophetess, they have already done this research. And so they sound like the very websites that I'm referring you to. So United Nations, Wikipedia, this is information. that's available to you. October, we know it's Halloween. That's where you will see an uptick of satanic ritual type of stuff, from movies to witches and warlocks and mediums and spiritists, to people who have denounced and renounced their affiliations. That happens. Why do they do this, says someone? Because it draws traffic. That's why. Okay? It is not God saying, this is the time period at which we're going to put all of this out here. That is man that does that. Now, are there specific things that God can use man or woman to do? Yes, but it's not in great abundance like the way the algorithm pushes stuff out. Ooh. Not in a way that in our minds we think. So Halloween approaches. Next thing you know, we're hearing about the urban legends. We're hearing about the folklore. There's people that's concerned about black cats and ritual abuse and all of that. The conversation goes on. And now you got Christians who are listening and they're concerned. And we got to pray. And, oh, I'm feeling depressed and I'm sad. And there's just this energy. We're not fighting that. Yes, of course there's an energy, because there are those who will conjure up, right? They will raise up various things that will impact the energy, the frequency. And so now I'm more tired, I'm more irritable, I don't know, this is terrible or whatever. But then that is why there are those who will pray and they will fast during this time of year, right? So that is something that you will see more of. And you can go over to Snopes. And Snopes talks about June 23rd, 2017, where there was this satanic panic phenomenon that began in the 1980s. Okay. So when you've got various ritual types of abuses that take place, and they happen during certain days or times, people will start to panic. When they see patterns of this, well, I mean, at that point, it is not a legend. It's like, wait a minute, we need to get some investigators. We got to get police involved. We got to get, whoever and whatever, because this is a real thing, you see. And that's all the more reason why you don't send children over to strangers' houses during certain times where you know for a fact that foolishness happens on certain days throughout the year, not just October, throughout the year. Okay. The other thing that tends to happen is when there's FEMA tests, and there's, like the nationwide emergency alert system, that sort of thing, right? And the beep and all of that. Okay, people start reading into it. They start sharing rumors. They start talking about the government and various switches. And then, of course, the storms that take place. And then they want to tie some things into that. And then you get individuals that's concerned about certain cities, states, towns, what have you, about martial law. We're not making light of that. There are times where this sort of thing does happen. However, it doesn't happen all over the entire world, where, oh my goodness, it's an event similar to like COVID, at least not now. But can it happen? Yes, it could happen where there is a lot of soldiers running and ripping everywhere, similar to what we're seeing with ICE deportations and so forth. Yeah. Or the deportations in ICE. Yeah, absolutely it can. Right? But if you are the believer that you claim you are, right, you can't afford to be fearful during this time. You can't afford to be the one that is freaking out. You say that you're a believer. Let's pray about these things. Let's use our critical thinking skills. Let's make sure that we already have plans in place, right? Everything that happens to someone else doesn't mean that it's going to happen to you. Come on. You see? But we do hear about martial law rumors. And then there are those that will do the fact checks. Reuters has done this. Fact check on this and fact check on that. Back in 2020, there was a rumor going around that Trump was declaring all sorts of things, including martial law, right? And people started freaking out and all this other stuff. Well, when the pandemic was full blown, people had to be in their houses. Remember that? Now, if people start freaking out and acting up, basically, it is a prophecy that definitely is going to come to pass. You know, because if you're freaking out and you're doing some things that you're not supposed to, or you got young people that's in the neighborhood and they're acting up, yeah, curfews, martial law, you name it. Remember, look at the whole picture as to why a community, a city, a town, a borough. And remember, he told you about illegal this and illegal that. So if that and whoever and whatever is illegal, then you know that there is going to be people that's going to be picked up. And no, some people are not going to be picked up in the way that we think they should be picked up. But this is what's going on. I'm not saying, this is the way things are being done is, the right way. And it's like, and all this other stuff. I'm not getting into all of that. I'm just saying that the buzzwords, the signs, the things that are right in your face, once again, you don't need someone to say God said. All you have to do is pay close attention and know that here we go. This is about to happen. That's about to happen. We knew that this was going to happen because the buzzwords was there. They had the meeting about it. We remembered what happened 3-5 years ago. Okay, so then, of course, you got to make sure that you're prepared, which we're going to get into that. All right. And, of course, another example in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Red October, okay? There are those individuals that QAnon started putting up all sorts of posts and so forth, October 2017. And there were documents and there were all sorts of rumors. I mean, it was interesting. Okay, I'm gonna read from the Britannica, written by Brian Holoda. QAnon Conspiracy Theory is what this is titled. QAnon conspiracy theory originating in forum posts on the website 4chan in October 2017. Conspiracy adherents believe that U.S. President Donald Trump was waging a secret war against a cabal of satanic, cannibalistic within Hollywood, the Democratic Party, and the so-called deep state within the United States government. With the aid of social media platforms, the theory expanded in content and geographic reach in subsequent years and resulted in legal protests as well as several violent criminal incidents. Now fast forward. 2025 at the time of this recording, okay? See, at some point, we go, conspiracy, but there are those things that, all right, now that I know what I know, now it all makes sense. You see, now it all makes sense. But once again, did I need a prophet for that? I just read that right out of the article. Okay. Now, here we are. This is a season, if you will. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens moving through September into October with regard to what I just read. Are we going to see some arrests? Are we going to see more names? All right. Gun control. Now, we hear about it every time there's some type of major news story. Here comes the safety debate talks. Here comes someone being interviewed about one thing or another on one of your favorite shows. Okay? We tend to see warmer months, and then late summer and fall. So if someone wants to mark their calendar, they can mark their calendar. Matter of fact, everything that I'm mentioning, just mark your calendar. See what happens next year around the same time. Okay. Seasonal influence on mass shootings. This is on National Library of Medicine, PMC Pub Med Central. Mass shootings have become a terrible problem across the world, especially in the United States. In the aftermath of mass shootings, it has been observed that popular and political discourse frequently focuses on the causal impact of mental illness. Ding, ding, ding. Conveying a message that people with serious mental illness, SMI, are dangerous people, often reduced to dangerous weapons, thereby negatively influencing public attitudes about individuals with SMI. Okay? Once again, serious mental illness. Such widely held, if simplistic attitudes have been challenged by Metzel and McGuire, who recently proposed that notions of mental illness emerging in relation to mass shootings frequently reflect larger cultural stereotypes and on and on. But see, this is the problem with reading a lot of these different articles, is that I don't see too much talk about what is ingested. Come on. Because what is ingested, there are side effects. So if it's supposed to treat the mental dramas and traumas and issues and whatever, but yet some people's bodies just don't do well on certain medicines, then it isn't any wonder, right? And it goes hand in hand. Years ago, I did an audio about this sort of thing between the medicines that are injected and the rise of all of this stuff that goes on with regard to hurting other people. I'm going to skip through this article. Indeed, seasons have a demonstrated effect on mood, hostility, anger, irritability, and anxiety in populations with and without SMI. Okay? So, some people just don't do well in certain climates, in addition to everything else that's going on with the body. All right. So, why is it that September and October keep spiking? Well, we can talk about the fact that you've got the push, right, of media propaganda and so on and so forth. You've got now more people on the internet who they are talking about things, right? You've got religious calendars. Some people, they don't look at the religious calendars like the Jewish fall feasts, right? And so once the news shows up, it's like, oh my goodness. Meanwhile, things happen when people don't like certain ethnicities. Things happen, okay? The global events, right? And the geopolitics and the end times narratives and all of these other things that tend to occur during certain times of the year, okay? Then, of course, the cultural calendars, the satanic calendars, and the things that go on with it. So none of this is prophetic. FEMA, hurricane season, martial law, none of that. This is cycles that take place. This is common things that occur. Maybe they change different ways of doing things when it comes to evil, but evil tends to show up, right? And some people push evil. All right. So this is what I wanted to share with some individuals. And you'll notice in Google Trends, if you enter terms like rapture, martial law, satanic sacrifice, gun control, you set the time frame about past 5 through 10 years or more. You switch the region to the United States or global, and then you look at the timeline, and there you have it. No profit needed for this, okay? And then pretty much once you see it right in front of you, you go, okay, so I just know that since these things are bound to happen in whatever way they might happen, I just need to avoid crowds possibly during this time, or make sure that I'm stocking up on food so in case something major does happen, at least I got food, right? These are the things that our elders were doing. And when we were younger, we really didn't pay that close attention. But it was the seasons that they were familiar with. That's cycle after cycle. This tends to happen. These bad things tend to happen. Evil is at work. Let me make sure that I prep for what is to come. And so it wasn't about, oh, you must be a prophet or you must be a psychic because you already knew this and that. It's because I've been on this planet long enough to figure this thing out. You see, and God, he will use, once again, the most unlikeliest situations, things, people, you name it, to just remind you that, okay, if you haven't been doing, you might want to do, right? To protect yourself, to protect your family, to let them know, hey, like for instance with the jabs, and it doesn't matter what jab, they all have had their share of side effects. Some people, hey, nothing happened. Other people, a whole lot has happened. Nothing new under the sun. You go back 30 years, 40 years ago, you'll see that there was pushback and there were people who had their share of issues. Back in those days, you had reporters shoving, microphones in people's faces. What do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And blah, 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 blah. And then over time, people will suffocate news. They'll suffocate the side effects of things. They will make sure that you don't know about the lawsuits that are going on right now as a result of injuries. See, you're so wrapped up in everything else. And then when you have some of the churches that are in on, why don't you preach about this? And then we'll take care of this behind the scenes. And so meanwhile, you're thinking, okay, God is with that minister, or God put that person up to saying this and saying that. And meanwhile, timing is interesting. There's a cover up. There's a cover-up. All right, so I hope that this inspires. This channel isn't just about informing you of some things, but it also inspires you to think about what is occurring right now, and think about what is being covered up, and think about what you need to do to prepare for anything, just anything, okay? And we don't need to name everything. All we need to do is trust in the one true God. And then God, he will lead us. He will guide us. And we don't have to be like some of the other people. Oh my gosh. Anxious, fearful, worried. Okay. And then you can tell your favorite loved one or your friends, what have you. Thank you so much for that information, but I'm good over here. I'm good. All right. Thank you. All right. Blessings to you. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, share. We do welcome giving on this channel, and thanks in advance.